The Cleveland Cavaliers have changed their uniforms. Can they best what the Utah Jazz has done? I don't know. We'll talk about it in a second.
Could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey, yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian. He posting like Kobe Bryant, he flying to see the pilot. Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of Atleti's, from football to racing jet skis. This is pass the rock, don't stop the shot clock. Pass the slap shot, come on, now let's talk, pass the rock.
I, for one, am really glad to be compared to Kobe Bryant. This is one of the first times in my career and in my life that has happened. So welcome to Pass the Rock here again. Really filled agenda today. A lot to get to. We have the MLB All-Star break going on now. We have a lot of college sports to talk about. And, of course, our preview of the AFC South. Zach and Jack, how are you doing today? I'm going to start with you, Jack.
I'm doing great, and I'm happy that a lot of what we got to talk about today has something to do with my hometown of Los Angeles. So I'm excited and ready to get into it.
Because we're never talking about LA, right? Yeah. So how are you doing, Zach? I mean, you and I in smaller markets, West Virginia and New Orleans. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good today. I'm excited to talk a little college football later on because that actually does have to do with, smaller market West Virginia out here. And we're going to be talking some MLB that involves a few All-Stars, a few Phillies. So I'm always looking forward to talking some Phillies.
That's right. Big Phillies. Just a big – you almost wish All-Star weekend was a little bit longer and maybe actually on the weekend than just like a Monday, Tuesday, day off on Wednesday. But let's start with the Cavaliers. We teased it at the top. Pretty – minimalist design, but not nearly. You can't get any more minimalist than what the Jazz have done, which is just to write Jazz or Utah on their uniforms and change their colors to match maybe the Beehive State. So, Zach, what did you think of the Cavs designs, and is everybody going to go minimalist this year?
I mean, I for one am a fan of the Cavaliers' new look. I mean, I remember when they unveiled their new words, like the new word font, their new logo, which is just like a slight alteration of the colors. I actually really like their slight redesign. I like their new word font, and I think these jerseys, they're very basic, but they work, and I'm a fan of them. They're definitely better than Utah's. They're not just black, white, and highlighter yellow. You got the black. The black is, still very prevalent. You got, the great wine red. And I actually am a big fan of the white uniforms that they unveiled today. So 3 uniforms unveiled today. I'm a fan of each one of them. I think they're all pretty good. There's little things I'm not huge on. I would prefer some trims to be added. I'd like some trims. The red one has a subtle one, but I want some good trims. But other than that, I have no major complaints about these jerseys. I think they're all really nice.
Yeah, and one thing you have to say about the NBA, about 4 or 5 years ago, they totally revolutionized uniforms in sports by, adding the earned edition. So if you make it to the playoffs, you can design this one. Obviously, the city editions. MLB has tried to replicate it and has really failed for the most part, like we talked about a few weeks ago. And it's funny, you can see graphics on Twitter of all the teams and who's revealed what uniforms. I know I got to see what the Pelicans are thinking about for this year and several other teams. So it's interesting to see. Jack, what did you think of the Cavs uniforms? Did they best the Jazz?
Well, I mean, yeah, besting the Jazz. I mean, anyone could best the Jazz. My grandma could best the Jazz. But I'm not usually a big fan of the simplistic designs, but I actually think the Cavs did a really good job with this one. I mean, I think my favorite thing about it is that each jersey sort of calls back to a different era of Cavs basketball. Like the white jersey reminds me of those 80s Cavs jerseys that had more color than the white, but the logo is very similar with the little hoop. And I really like the black one is probably my favorite of the ones that they released. And that one just reminds me of the second time LeBron was there when they had the black jersey with the sleeves with the big C on it. That just reminds me of LeBron being an absolute unstoppable force, which of course it's just LeBron, but reminds me of that era of LeBron. So it's going to be cool to see them wear those.
Yeah, I think the one era that they missed though was like the '80s Cavs when they had the baby blue and orange uniforms.
Yeah.
What I like to call the Craig Elo years. For those of you that remember the Michael Jordan shot over Craig Elo, who was really a decent player and just part of history in the wrong situation. But I love those colors. I wish they'd at least throw a third jersey in.
I feel like those could be a good like city edition though. If you're gonna make a fourth jersey for this set, a minimalist version of like those 80 Cavs, like imagine just like a whole baby blue Cavaliers uniform. I'd love that in the same style as these. It would fit right in. I'd love that.
Yeah, and it was like this weird lazy 80s logo thing where it was Cavs and the I guess it was the V was a hoop that a ball was going through, just to remind you we play basketball. But anyway, let's move on. We got so much to get to. We do want to let everyone know this Sunday, July 24th, at Lost Tribe on our Twitch, we're going to have a 12-hour continuous stream for something we're like to call Sadakathon. So we're partnering with influencers, streamers, other organizations to bring you a full day of programming, and we're raising money for Ukraine relief through the Jewish National Fund. So please join us. We'll be on from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Some of your favorite influencers, even the three of us, we're going to run a live Pass the Rock show. Maybe we'll put together a few tier lists or something like that. We're going to do something really engaging outside of what we normally do for Pass the Rock. So you could win gift cards, an Xbox, a PS5, everything. So a Nintendo Switch. See you July 24th, 10 a.m. Eastern time on our Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Lost Tribe TV. So check that out. And then we debuted a new segment. It went through our socials last week called Just One More Take. And of course, I won last week. But this week, we're going to have Zach against Jack. Who can have the best take? Not something we talked about on the show, but something that comes up afterwards. So check that out on our Instagram this Thursday or Friday. You'll get to see the two of them and their major take. And then we'll see who wins. So you can jump in the comments. You can tell us what you thought of everything. I know last week we got some comments on some of our stuff that the Bucs had the best receiving core in the NFC South, which we debated a little bit. But check it out. Just one more take. It'll be this Thursday or Friday. Now let's get to the MLB All-Star break. The Home Run Derby is tonight. So we have several matchups. We have 8 players, even some players on the MLB pension like Albert Pujols. Going to Jack first. What first round matchup do you like? And then who do you like in the championship round? And who do you like to win?
Oh, man. I mean, I think the most exciting first round matchup is Corey Seager versus Julio Rodriguez. Corey Seager coming home to LA, one of my favorite non-Dodgers in the league because, of course, he was a Dodger for a million years. But I think he's going to put on a show back at Dodger Stadium. And my God, is Julio Rodriguez the most exciting player in the league or what? I mean, he swipes bags. He hits bombs. He's got the swag. He's got everything you want in a young baseball player. And it almost feels like he's built to dominate the Derby. So I'm just like that matchup. It's juicy. It's amazing. But I think
so. You're taking the 6 seed over the 3 seed. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's tough because it's so hard for me to pick against Corey Seager.
I know. That's why I asked you that question.
Corey Seager. But I mean, I really think Julio Rodriguez is going to pull that off. I think he's awesome. But in the finals, I'm going to go a little bit of chalk here. I think it's going to be Kyle Schwarber versus the home run derby king, Pete Alonso. And I just don't see myself picking against Pete Alonso. I mean, the guy, he's won 2 home run derbies in a row. He just dominates this tournament. He lives for this tournament. He talks about in interviews the whole year long how he's so excited for the home run derby to just dominate again. And I think that's what he's going to do because that's just what he does.
All right. So as the kids say, that's fighting words. Going over to Zach, who is your most intriguing first round matchup? Who's in the championship? Who wins the thing?
So my first round matchup, I have to go with Pete Alonso's first round matchup against Ronald Acuna Jr. I think that's actually a very interesting matchup. We got an NL East matchup, not my team, but I mean, very excited to see how that one pans out because while I think Alonso's going to win it probably handily, and I really can't say Seager or Rodriguez, that would also probably be my pick. But the second most intriguing matchup, Pete Alonso is always fun to watch hitting homers, and then Ronald Acuna Jr. I think he's got he's got some life in him. I think he's going to be able to hit some balls. I mean, I think that's probably one of the most intriguing matchups here. And then the finals, I'm going the same way Jack is. Schwarber should be able to get through the competition. I have faith in him. And Pete Alonso, you can't really bet against Pete Alonso, especially in the early rounds. You really can't. I mean, he's facing the winner of that Seeger Rodriguez matchup, and both aren't as experienced as he is in the home run derby. I think that'll be easy. And Schwarber is also pretty experienced, so I can see him handling the winner of Juan Soto and Jose Ramirez. In the finals, though, I can't pick a Met to win 3 times in a row. Come on, it's the Mets. I don't like the Mets. I'm not a Mets fan. So I'm gonna take. I think it's gonna be close, but I'm gonna take Schwarber in a close final round to win the Derby, dethrone Pete Alonso, become the new home run champion. After the June he just had, I mean, the Phillies tweeted out earlier. Today's June 48th. June hasn't ended. It's still June. It's still Schwarber season. Happy June 48th. It's still his time.
That is a great theory, and you both went totally chalk, which I didn't necessarily expect. I also think, though, the first round matchup of Alonso and Acuna is going to be the most exciting one. I just think, Ronald's been out a little bit this season. He's going to want to show out at the All-Star game, but I think Schwarber loses in round 2 to Soto.
No.
I just think he passed up
Soto. Oh God, no.
Passed up the big money, but he's going to show out today. And I don't think Kyle Schwarber, I don't think he's got the stamina to hit. He can hit home runs over a month's time, but can he hit them all in one night? So I'm going to go with the 4 seed to win it all.
He's been in the home run derby before. He's done this before.
I know he has. And Juan Soto is going to show him the door tonight. That's my prediction. Can't wait to watch that every year. Obviously, let's be real. Probably more exciting than even the All-Star game. But so let's move on. Are there any All-Star snubs still? NBA, MLB All-Star game with even in the NFL with all the alternates that get to make it. It's like, I forget who it was that was talking that like 13% of the league gets to make the All-Star game. But any snubs out there still after all these subs were brought in? Jack.
Yeah, I'm going to be a homer again. I went to war for Will Smith last week, and I'm going to go to war for Will Smith again this week. He is the best catcher in baseball. He has proven this year that he is the best, at least offensively, is the best catcher in baseball. And we want to see the offense in the All-Star game. I don't understand how Travis d'Arnaud is an All-Star over Will Smith. It still makes no sense to me. And I'm appalled that even after all these replacements, I think we're up to like 80 total All-Stars right now.
Yeah,
and you're telling me that Will Smith is not one of the 80 best players in the MLB? I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
Yep. Zach, any thoughts on snubs still as we go into the All-Star game tomorrow?
Before I go to snubs, Ty France finally got the All-Star berth. He absolutely deserved. So congratulations to Ty France. Absolutely deserved it. I also think Liam Hendricks was also well-deserved his All-Star berth that he finally got. But I'm going to war for my hometown Phillies. Zach Wheeler especially should be an All-Star. And Aaron Nola, his last appearance, he's pitched over 8 innings in a near complete game shutout versus the Marlins. He had a phenomenal performance, very All-Star worthy. I wouldn't put Nola in that realm of All-Star this year, but Zach Wheeler absolutely should be. As I've said on last week's show, second in Cy Young voting last year, second place. And he's not an All-Star this year after having a really good first half of the season again. There's no reason why he shouldn't be an All-Star. It is blasphemy. Just like Will Smith and Travis d'Arnaud. Same kind of deal. There are some pitchers on this All-Star lineup that just should not be here. Why is Luis Castillo over Zach Wheeler in the All-Star game? That makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, just, when you go to watch the game tomorrow night and you forget this guy made it. How did this guy make it? Well, because he's the only player from this team to be on there. So it's the same issues we talked about last week that MLB has with it all. Shane McClanahan and Clayton Kershaw, who we definitely talked about last week. Did they make the right choice there, Zach?
I went to war for Sandy Alcantara last week. I really did. I thought, and I looked when Passan tweeted that today. I looked in the replies. People were like, "But Sandy's the right guy. Sandy should have been the guy." So a lot of people agree with me, but of course it's in LA. Pandering to you, Jack. Always pandering to you. Kershaw. I understand why the decision was made, but As soon as that first inning is over, I need Sandy to be pitching on that mound because he is the best pitcher in baseball for the first half so far, in my eyes. He's been the best. But I get why Kershaw's starting. I think it's good. It's a good idea that he is, but should have been Sandy.
Jack, any rebuttal on that?
No, I mean, I agree with you. Sandy should have the second inning. I'm not arguing that at all. He has been the best pitcher in baseball this year. But my God, I am so happy that Clayton Kershaw is starting the All-Star game. I mean, it's just going to be amazing. Dodger Stadium is going to be on fire tomorrow. And I honestly, I can't wait to see it. But honestly, what's more intriguing to me is that Shane McClanahan got the nod in the AL, which is very deserving. I'm not arguing against McClanahan at all. He would have been my pick. I just am really shocked they didn't give the nod to Ohtani. They usually in the All-Star game, they would go for the more fun pick, for the flashier pick. And in this case, they're giving it to the guy that probably deserves it more. So it's almost like it's a little inconsistent. You know, in the National League, they went for the story in Kershaw. And in the American League, they went to the guy that is playing, like he has the best numbers. So it's not really consistent, but it makes sense. And I'm happy for both guys that got the nod.
What also baffles me, though, about the selection, though, right? Because I agree, Ohtani's had a really good case to be the starter. The Angels are branded as a Los Angeles team. Like they call themselves the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, but they're the
whatever
Los
that
Angeles
means.
Angels. So why wouldn't they have Ohtani be the starting pitcher? Be consistent with that Kershaw pick. Have Ohtani be the pick, especially since Ohtani's such a big name. I think it might be because of just like the fatigue we've had. You know, Ohtani, every night we literally see an Ohtani highlight on every social media. Oh, guys, Ohtani breathed at the plate. We need to post 3 times about this. It's literally every major sports outlet nowadays. But I'm a little surprised that they went McClanahan. Like he is the best pitcher, but they could have had a LA versus LA starting matchup, and that would have been a really cool thing to have, you know, since, you know, Ohtani is an Angel and the Angels play in Los Angeles.
Well, let me just say, if you live in Los Angeles, the Angels play in Anaheim.
That's true.
Well, then don't call yourselves the Los Angeles Angels. Be the Anaheim
Exactly.
Angels like they used to be.
They really should be the Anaheim Angels.
Or the California Angels way back in the day.
Or even the California Angels, but they should be the Angels of Anaheim. Not
whatever it is, it's certainly not Los Angeles.
Spoken not Los Angeles Angels of maybe Anaheim. We're not actually quite sure.
No, I agree. That would have been a cool story. I think you either go with the story and you go Kershaw versus Ohtani, or you go with the best numbers on both sides and get the best pitcher in there. But in the end, you know, you have managers making these decisions, and you know, who knows what. It's going to be pretty rare that you don't have like a Clayton Kershaw type starting at home in Dodger Stadium. So let's move back on to Juan Soto. So he turned down $440 million from the Washington Nationals. Looks like they're open to trading him now, because if he doesn't want to take their money like in that amount, then, you know, what do you do keeping him? So number one, what would you do for $440 million? And number two, which team do you think ends up getting him, Zach?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I would do for $440 million on this podcast. I'm not sure if I could say that and still be able to, you know, in the words of that Reds broadcaster, put on a headset. But when it comes to the trade rumors, I think it's crazy that he even turned down $440 million. I mean, is Washington that bad of a team and an organization to where you turn down $440 million? Like, this isn't the Washington Commanders. This is the Washington Nationals, who won a ring 3 years ago.
Yep.
So it's very surprising that this is even happening. But when it comes to the trade rumors, I mean, I can see the Dodgers getting him. I can see the Mets getting him. Like, I think those two teams are probably like the quote unquote front runners. There hasn't really been much of a market that's been discussed yet for him, but it's obviously he's going to be going to a big market team if he is traded. But I mean, if Soto doesn't even want to play there, I think the Nationals might be blowing it up. So look for pieces like Josh Bell potentially being traded as well, because he's pretty solid. He's one of the only other solid pieces they have on that team right now. So I think if Soto's gone, they gotta blow it up. They gotta start, building through their farm system. It's gonna be a very interesting second half for the Nationals.
Well, and then the question becomes, which farm system do they inherit in this trade? I like that the Padres are listed as a team potential, but when it starts with Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, I just feel like every year it's going to be either Dodgers, Mets, or Yankees. So,
Yep.
Jack, is it the Dodgers, the Mets, or the Yankees?
Oh man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is the one where the Padres have the best shot out of all these rumors. I mean, or at least in comparison to like the Max Scherzer rumors last year.
Right.
I mean, as a Dodgers fan, I have really mixed feelings about trading for Soto because as great as he is, it's a lot to give up. I mean, I'm thinking about we just watched the Futures game yesterday. I just watched the Futures game yesterday, and the Dodgers had 3 prospects up there in Bobby Miller, Miguel Vargas, and Diego Cartaya, who all looked awesome. And I'm thinking about if I'm trading for Juan Soto, those 3 guys are gone. I mean, they will never see the field in the Dodger uniform if we're trading for Juan Soto, which I'm probably okay with, except for the fact that we're going to have to pay Soto $440 million, and that means we probably let Trey Turner walk, which I don't want to do. I love Trey.
And then he'll be a Philly. Yes, exactly. So,
I honestly,
the Dodgers getting him. Yes, go Dodgers.
I think, in my opinion, it is more important for us to keep Trey Turner and our farm system than to go out and trade for Juan Soto. So I don't know if Andrew Friedman is thinking that way, but if he is, that takes a big player out of the running. And I think the Padres are a team that could really go for him. I mean, they swung and missed on Max Scherzer last year, and they've swung and missed a lot of times in the past. But I mean, they've got the pieces. They've definitely, their farm system is very good. CJ Abrams is probably a guy that would get traded. And I would not be surprised if they really went out for him. Another team that I saw listed that I think could be in the running is the Rangers, which I really liked and found interesting because they went out and got Seeger and Marcus Semien in the offseason. And with Soto, I mean, that's a really, really solid, pretty young core that they would build around. And God knows they've been bad forever, so they've got the prospects to trade. So I think that would be an interesting landing spot, and I would be really excited to see him play there.
You're right. There are teams like the Padres and the Rangers that have traded their star players for prospects for years and years and years and just have these prospects to give up now if they want to play the game the other way. I just know, having lost the Mookie Betts situation and then Scherzer last year, which ended up really hurting the Dodgers long-term because of only having him for a rental. But I still think it comes down to Dodgers, Mets, Yankees. I mean, can you imagine if he joined the Yankees and you have to pitch against that lineup? Unbelievable. But it is a massive trade haul. Plus, you have to give up probably more than $440 million at this point, maybe $450.
Yeah, you do. It's crazy.
Is it worth it? Is it worth it, Zach? Is it worth it?
I'm thinking to myself, unless you're, one of those 3 big teams, the Dodgers, Mets, Yankees teams that actually can pay him, it's probably not worth sacrificing, your future for. But the Dodgers have one of the best, if not the best, developmental system in baseball. I feel like they should be a favorite for Juan Soto, and I can see it. I mean, Trey Turner is, probably going to be gone next year, probably to the Mets or the Phillies, most likely the 2 teams that I've heard the most. I'm not hyping up the Phillies getting Trey Turner. I'm actually serious. These are the actual rumors that I've heard. Those are the 2 teams. I don't want him to be a Met. I think I want him to be a Met, but I can totally see Juan Soto being traded to the Dodgers. They have the pieces in their developmental system, for the Nationals to get an appropriate haul. I mean, it's kind of crazy. This summer has been the summer of potential blockbuster deals. First Kevin Durant, now Juan Soto. Just, they won out pretty much. So, I mean, the teams are listening to offers. Nothing's happened yet. I don't expect anything to happen with Juan Soto for a while, but I mean, very interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, so a ton to get to still. So I'm gonna skip off of MLB for now. We're gonna skip over to the college sports landscape, specifically what's going on with all these conferences. So let's start talking about that. A couple of weeks ago, we didn't get to this last week. USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. Yes, the Big Ten. you might have Notre Dame, Oregon, Stanford, Washington to follow, which is crazy to think. The Big Ten could be 20. You have Clemson, Miami, Virginia, UNC talking about the SEC. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah going to the Big 12. It's just the Wild West out there. People are doing whatever they want to do. So I wanted to float an idea that I had of how the playoffs should work, and then ease that into Zach's idea of what to do with all this conference realignment and shuffling. So, number one, however many conferences they end up with. Right now they have 11 in big-time college football, the Bowl Championship Series, technically. So everything from the Sun Belt all the way up to the SEC, and you can rank them however you want. I think every conference champion should make it. And I think then it should be filled in. If you want to do 16 teams, great. If you want to go a little bigger, do 24, great. With at-large teams of, however you rank them. You can go with the old BCS system. You can have a committee, however it is that you determine it. But that way, if you win your conference, you're in. And you get to show us what you want to show us. So if you're a Cincinnati type or other teams similar to them in the past, Boise State, 10 years ago or whatever, you get a spot. I just think that's the way to go. Stop telling me about academics, okay? It's all pretend. If you want to play these games in bowl games so that the bowl games get their money, just do it. We want to see the games, okay? And we want to see somebody shellac the the Sun Belt champion every year. But we just want that little bit of March Madness, that feel, can the 16 beat the 1? So if you pair that with Zach's idea next, I think you have solid gold. Zach, tell us your idea for college football relegation and promotion.
Yes, I believe that it would. I don't think it'll happen, but I think it would be amazing for college football to get a relegation and promotion system. I mean, we already know like the SEC is like, the number one conference. They could stay at that spot, but I'm saying the bottom two teams, we don't have to have Vanderbilt in the SEC anymore losing every single game. They'd be moved down to the next conference, which would probably be like the Big Ten. You have 10 teams actually in the Big Ten, maybe. So maybe it's like an 8-team, 10-team, 12-team with the Big 12 being next. And then you have, the other power conferences, if the Pac-12 and ACC are still around by that point,
right?
Because both are losing a lot of members. If the ACC loses Clemson, Miami, Virginia, UNC, that conference might just straight up fold. So, I mean, it's going to be crazy if those teams decide to move. But I would like it to be, since let's say there's a Power 4 structure at some point, if this happens, you got the 4 major, relegation systems. And, like the top 2 teams will move up and the bottom 2 teams will move down. So it adds a little bit of parity season to season. You're always going to have a new opponent at some point. And then if you're, outside of those Power 4 conferences, you could have teams, from mid-majors, trying to get their way into those Power 4. Eventually we could see teams that we would have never seen, in, competitive talks. Say for whatever reason, Temple starts getting really good in their mid-major. I'm just thinking of Temple. I don't know why. So let's say Temple gets to the point where they have, like 5 consecutive winning seasons, a few promotions, and they finally get to that lowest level. Now they're playing competition that's more appropriate for them. I think it would take a few years. It would take a few years for it to really be worked out. But once you get like 3-4 years in, you'll see that, different teams will be playing different schools. I mean, you're not going to always have an Alabama, Ohio State, college football playoff, championship game. Eventually you're going to start having those lower teams start to creep up on them. So I think it would help a lot with parity. I think it would help a lot with, different teams playing different teams, a lot of new competition. I mean, there's some teams that don't play each other when they live so close to each other. I mean, West Virginia doesn't play Penn State. We haven't played Penn State in decades, but that would be a really cool matchup just because they're local. If we end up being in the same conference at some point, say we're in that second, third conference there, we play each other once that year, and that'd be pretty cool.
I think you could shake it up even more by ranking the conferences every year. Yeah. And so you think you're moving up to the SEC, but then the SEC becomes the second ranked. So if you're in the Big Ten.
I think that's a little too crazy.
Yeah, it gets confusing.
I think you have to have it.
Oh, yeah. It's confusing.
I think you have to have it where it's, like 4 or 5 set leagues of different teams, and then you get from the rest. Maybe then you can do okay, there's 2 that are there, and then there's like 4 different conferences that play into that, and that's where you can get more geographical. But once you get to those top 5, especially with USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten, there's no reason why geography should be an issue. Teams can pretty much fly anywhere. I think they'll be fine. Can't wait to see UCLA visit Iowa at some point and play a 10 a.m. Snow Bowl. Very excited to watch that on my TV. But yeah, I really think that I don't know if it's going to happen. I would love for it to happen, but a promotion relegation system would be amazing for college football.
All right, so let's go to Jack's been quiet for a record length of time as we've put out our theories. So Jack, what do you think? What do you think about the promotion relegation system? What do you also think about the expanded playoffs?
Okay, I mean, I think the promotion relegation system, as interesting and cool as it would be, and as good as it for college football as I think it would be, I think it's completely unrealistic. I think that the major conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, are way too money hungry to let something like that happen. Yeah. And they would have to work together for that to happen, and that just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Especially when Vanderbilt is replacing Ohio State in the Big Ten.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on, you're really telling me the Big Ten would let that happen? There's no way. So I think that's unrealistic. The expanded playoffs, I do think, is something that we could see at some point. And I would be a big fan of it, especially as a Wisconsin fan. I mean, I think that would give us a chance to make the playoff if it were 16 teams, because with the 4-team setting, we're basically screwed. I mean, we're never better than 8th. So, but with the 16-team format, you have the conference champions get in. We can finish second in the Big Ten. That's something that could happen. And then if you give us a chance, you never know what happens. So as a fan of one of those teams that's sort of on the outside looking in right now, that would be really awesome. And I think overall it would be good for college football. Like you were saying, you get the March Madness sort of feeling with the lower tier conference champions getting in there. And you get the opportunity to see, I don't know, South Alabama versus Alabama if that was ever to happen. I mean, wouldn't that be fun?
We want to do is fill out brackets. Let's be real.
Exactly. You can't fill out a 4-team bracket. I mean,
exactly.
So I think it would be really cool and actually somewhat realistic.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do. Obviously, this is just unprecedented situation here, and tradition is gone out the window. USC and UCLA changed that, as well as Texas and Oklahoma and everything else before that. So just a crazy situation. Now I have some really bad news for both of you. We have to talk about the AFC South. We agreed to talk about every division in the NFL and do a preview, and now we've started doing some player drafts. And at some point, we're just going to have to eat our peas and talk about the AFC South. So let's talk about the AFC South. The champions last year, the Tennessee Titans, 12-5, lost in the divisional round to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the last-second field goals that they made to advance in the playoffs. We'll start with you, Jack. Is Ryan Tannehill the long-term answer for the Titans? It doesn't seem he wants to give up his spot, but has he already kind of shown what his ceiling is?
Yeah, he's completely shown what his ceiling is. I don't think he's a long-term answer at all. I think that he's a decent stopgap for 2-3 years until you figure out what your long-term plan is. But I don't think Tannehill is that. And I mean, we talked last week, Zach was comparing just about everyone on the planet to Kirk Cousins. Yep. I think this week we should make Ryan Tannehill our new Kirk Cousins, because he's really about in that range of quarterback. I mean, just about in the middle of the pack. He's not going to lose you a game, but I don't think he'll win you one either. And I mean, the only thing that I like about the Titans' long-term plan at quarterback was getting Malik Willis in the 3rd round of the draft. I mean, that was an absolute steal. That was a guy that I wanted the Steelers to take at 20. So, I mean, the fact that they were able to get him that late in the draft, and he was a raw quarterback. He needed to sit on the bench. And you have a guy like Tannehill in place, it's probably the best possible situation for a guy like Malik Willis. And long-term, that's something that could work out well for you.
Yeah, probably the best news Malik Willis got all offseason is that Ryan Tannehill wouldn't be tutoring him on how to play the quarterback position. So back to you, Zach. Can Treylon Burks be the immediate A.J. Brown replacement, or is that Robert Woods, who they also signed?
So the Eagles fan in me says absolutely not. A.J. Brown's a clear upgrade, yada, yada, yada. The actual, football fan, appreciator of all this stuff says no, not immediately. It's going to take some time to develop. His camp reports haven't been impressive thus far from what I've heard. I mean, it's just not looking like he's the best guy. And apparently he also has asthma. That was one of those reports that he has asthma. So that's very interesting. I think he'll definitely need a little bit more time than A.J. Brown needed because, A.J. Brown, maybe like a year or two in, he was already, one of the top receivers in the NFL we were all talking about. I think Treylon's going to be a bit more of a project. I think Robert Woods right now is going to have a really good season. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to Robert Woods. I think he'll be really good this season. But Treylon Burks, I'm not high on him yet. He needs time to develop. He needs time to really fit in, and he needs time to really just, be more NFL ready. He's not quite there quite yet.
And look, as fun as this division is to talk about, it only gets worse from here. Second place were the Colts, 9-8 in 2021, didn't make the playoffs. They kind of pounced on, all this excitement over quarterbacks, and they got Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan is now a Colt. Can he do the job? This is to you, Zach. Can he do the job and deliver the Colts to the preseason? Is that the piece they were missing? Okay. I'm sorry, the postseason.
I mean, every team gets to the preseason. I'm not sure about the postseason. I don't know.
It must be great being perfect.
Yes, it is. It is perfect. Absolutely amazing. I don't know. I'm not sure about Matt Ryan right now. I mean, the weapons seem okay for him. With Jonathan Taylor, I mean, that's like the perfect running back he can have. But I mean, wide receiver group, you have some upside there, especially with Michael Pittman. But nothing that's like super flashy. I'm not sure if it's going to be Matt Ryan that will necessarily lead him to a postseason berth. I think the defense is going to be the reason that they make it, if anything.
Yep.
I'm thinking of Matt Ryan's situation a lot like I'm thinking of Carson Wentz's situation when he was in Indianapolis, but definitely more optimistic because I feel like Matt Ryan is still a better quarterback. I feel like it's going to be a very similar season to 2021. If anything, it's going to be like a 9-8 kind of season. I don't think they're going to make the postseason, but I feel like they have a chance. Just depends on a lot of teams around them.
Okay, going over to you, Jack. Will Jonathan Taylor, along with that defense that Zach just mentioned, is that enough? Even if you have noodle arm at quarterback he's not able to bring you back in a game where you're down 17 points or whatever. And noodle arm is Matt Ryan. If you're from the NFC South, you already knew that. But can Jonathan Taylor and that improved defense do enough to get them, above the 9-win barrier to maybe make the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm kind of optimistic. Like, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about the Colts this year. I mean, their defense is as good as always. It's their defense is consistently I'll be conservative and say top 10, but I think it's better than that. I think that their offensive line is arguably the best in the NFL. And they have, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. And go Badgers. I love Jonathan Taylor. Mm-hmm. But I really think that, like, the Colts, Matt Ryan, I mean, he, as much of a noodle arm as he may have, he is a smart and experienced quarterback that has made the playoffs and has been to the Super Bowl only to choke against the Patriots. But he has been there. And that's an upgrade on what they had last year in Carson Wentz. I think the Colts, in a weak division, have a good chance to win it. And I would not be surprised at all if they do.
All right. Well, we'll get to our order in a little bit. Let's move on and talk about the Houston Texans, who were in third last year. They were 4-13. I don't know that I've ever, and I've been following the NFL for 40-ish years, since I was 5, ever seen a team with such a just utterly decimated roster over an offseason. Brandon Cooks was the one piece they kept. So to you, Jack, does Brandon Cooks get traded before the trade deadline? The NFL is not a huge trade deadline sport. You kind of go with who you got. You might pick up a veteran or two here or there. Do you think he's on the Houston Texans at the end of the year?
I think he is. I think he stays with the Texans, and here is why. The Texans have sort of over the last couple years with the whole after the whole Bill O'Brien disaster, they sort of established a culture of if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. We'll just let you go.
Yeah.
So, and I think a prime example of that was Mark Ingram last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly did not want to be stuck there. The offer was on the table for him to go back to the Saints, and it was a no-brainer. And they said, "Good luck, goodbye."
Yeah.
And I think at this point, they're left with guys on the roster that are gritty. They want to be there, and they're gonna play hard. Even if they don't have the talent, they're going to play hard. And I think that Brandon Cooks at this point has proven that it's a culture that he wants to be a part of because he's been in these trade rumors for what feels like forever now, and he just doesn't leave. So I think that he's bought into what Lovie Smith is preaching and what Nick Caserio is trying to build. And I think he's going to be willing to stay there and see how it plays out.
So Brandon Cooks, in like his first 5 years of his career, played for the Saints, was traded to the Patriots, was traded to the Rams. And he's like, finally, the Texans have the culture that I want to be a part of. Because 4-13 is what I love. Now this year to like bet the under, whatever their like win total is, bet the under. But so I'll give you the fun talk, the fun conversation, Zach. What goals can the Texans realistically achieve this year? And is there only one?
Man, that is there's not really much the Texans can achieve this year, but
The number 1 overall pick?
No, I got
Their
it.
only
The
goal?
goal-
I don't think that they're gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be the number 1 pick. I think there's a few teams that I think are gonna be definitely worse than them. I mean, the two that stand out in my head are the Bears and the Falcons. They're gonna be awful this year.
Beautiful.
I don't think the Texans are going to be utterly terrible. I still think they're going to be bad. They're not going to be a good football team. They're not going to be competing for any playoffs. I can see them increasing their win total by like a game like this
Wow.
year.
So you say bet the over.
I might actually bet the over on the Texans. I don't know. They're not going to be good. Don't mince my words or anything. Like they're not going to be a good football team. But, I think just, especially with the Davis Mills, Brandon Cooks connection, they've actually had a year to gel together. I think, Davis Mills probably shouldn't be a starting quarterback, but he is in this league. And at least for right now, he's had a year under experience. I'm a little higher on him going into year 2. I think 5 wins could be possible for this team. I mean, they're gonna play gritty, like Jack said. They're gonna be, they're all trying to, work their hardest to stay in the league. So they're gonna be working hard. I mean, the culture sounds like it's pretty good. I can see 5 wins. I can see an improvement.
Okay. Well, we are definitely, I think this will be the first division where we're maybe very drastically different in how our standings go, but we'll see. Let's get to the Jaguars. 4th in 2021. They were 3-14. Just a debacle with a coach that was more interested in hanging out and partying than anything else, including getting ready with game plans. So going back to you, Zach, will Doug Peterson, since you're the Doug Peterson expert, will he be able to improve this team in 2022?
Doug Peterson will absolutely be able to improve this team 100%. I mean, everyone in Philly, we all know Dougie P. We all didn't like him for a bit, but we know he wasn't done the best here in Philly. We were all hoping he would get the job. I saw the Jaguars, Doug Peterson hire from a mile away. I knew it was going to happen, and it did happen eventually. I think he's got a nice young offensive core. They have some decent wide receivers. None of them will be like stars or anything, but they have a decent wide receiver core. I mean, as long as the offense works out, I think that they could maybe, they went 3-14. They might get 4 wins. I mean, I really do think that Doug Peterson is a really good coach for this kind of situation. I mean, he was the guy who was paired along Carson Wentz to build him up, and Carson Wentz did have an MVP season at one point. And Travis Etienne's going to be back, from injury. The Jaguars aren't going to be posing any major threats in the league, but I think they're going to definitely improve under Doug Peterson.
All right, so let me ask the question to you, Jack, and we'll try to get through the rest of this because we have a draft to get to as well. So what young player do you think steps up more? Not who you think should or needs to step up, but who do you think will actually do it? Is it Trevor Lawrence or is it Travis Etienne?
I think it's Trevor Lawrence. I am completely willing, after the disaster that was the Jacksonville Jaguars last season, I am willing to throw out Trevor Lawrence's rookie year and pretend like it didn't happen and start like this is ground zero. Like we're coming in a fresh start for Trevor Lawrence. Because I don't think that, I mean, sure, last year he was not good. And it is, you can't entirely take that off his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 75% of that was not his fault. I mean, the team was just a train wreck last year. I don't know. You couldn't I don't think Tom Brady would do well in that situation. I mean, I cannot fully blame Trevor Lawrence for that. And with an experienced coach coming in, a guy that has shown in the past that he knows how to work with quarterbacks, I think that he can really take a step up this year and be the guy that was drafted number 1 overall. I mean, we saw him in college. He was ridiculous. He was one of the best college prospects we've seen coming out. And I'm not willing to just throw that away because he had a rough rookie year in a ridiculously horrible situation.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what Trevor Lawrence does this year. And I really think there's a lot of room for improvement that he's going to take a step up with.
So, okay, this is what we'll do. We'll give our standings predictions. Within that, you need to let us know how many teams make the playoffs, obviously who the division champion is, and are there any Super Bowl contenders in this division, which I'm struggling to get through the question. But I'm going to start, and I'm going to go from the bottom up. I'm going Texans last. I don't even know if they win a game this year. Maybe Davis Mills has one good game against the Jaguars or the Colts or the Titans and pulls it out, but I think they're by far in fourth. I think the Colts are in third. Yes, you heard me correctly. Noodle Arm is not a good quarterback anymore, and I just don't think that you can rely on Jonathan Taylor to be the 25 to 30 carry a game guy. And if they get behind, they can't come back with Matt Ryan, so they're in third. Give me the Jaguars in second. I'm not going to get insane and pick them to win the division, but I do think they make a big step up. I really like the Doug Peterson hire. I just think they needed a good guy to come in there that's going to, put in the work. I think the two-headed monster running back room with Travis Etienne and James Robinson is going to be huge for them. And so they're going to be able to keep the ball a lot more, and I think that defense is a lot better than people think. And then lastly, I just think the Titans win this division by default. And then get trounced out of the playoffs again. But that's my pick. So I got Titans, Jaguars, Colts, Texans. I'll go back to you, Jack, for your 4. By the way, none of these teams is a Super Bowl contender, and only one makes the playoffs in the Titans.
Well, the only thing that I agree with you there is that none of these teams are Super Bowl contenders, and only one of them is going to make the playoffs. Other than that, I'm pretty much different across the board.
Perfect.
I do think that the Texans finish in last. I think that as much as I believe in their culture, and I hate to say I like what they're building because there hasn't been much built yet, but I like the philosophy that they're trying to build on. They just do not have the talent to win enough games to be better than last this year. So I think the Texans are in last. I think the Jaguars finish in third. I do think we see improvement from Trevor Lawrence this year. I think that I'm excited to see how Travis Etienne is. I just think that their defense is horrendous, and they're not going to win that many games with that defense. Like, I can't even see them doing much better than they were last year with that defense the way that it is. Okay. I think that second place is going to be the Tennessee Titans. I am not a huge fan of the Titans this year. I think that the A.J. Brown trade, I still can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand why they wouldn't just pay him.
I love this.
Their defense is really not that good. Their offense is it's all right. They brought in Robert Woods. They drafted Treylon Burks, who's going to play that A.J. Brown role, but he's not going to be anywhere near as good. I just don't think they're that good. And I have a hard time seeing them in the playoffs. And that sort of by default puts the Colts in first, which I don't feel great about, but I do feel great about that Colts defense. Mm-hmm. And that is the only thing in this entire division that I'm actually like, this is a good unit. This is a unit that can win games. And because of that, I'm not going to really think that much about their offense, which is it's all right. I mean, they have Jonathan Taylor. They have a great O-line. Matt Ryan's a little questionable, but their defense is very, very good, and it will win them games. And because of that, I'm going to put the Colts in first.
Okay. So Zach, we'll get to you, and you can either break the tie or you can pick Jacksonville or Houston to win the division. How does yours shake out?
All right, I'm not clinically insane. I'm picking one of the two teams that we've already mentioned to win the division. I think it's probably going to be the same structure as last season. Actually, I still have the Jaguars in fourth. I think that I did say I was high on the Texans so far, even though it's not going to be much higher. But I think the Jaguars do improve a bit. I think they improve by a win or two. I think they can, definitely show signs of growth, just not their time to make their way up to the division yet. I think the Texans are going to, make a slight uptick. They're going to stay in third place. Really not much to say about those two teams. Besides, I like the culture of the Texans. I like what the Jaguars are building. Give it, another year. Jaguars probably clearly in third. But this year, I think it's going to stay the same. I still have the Colts in second. I have the Colts being in second place. I really do like that defense, but I'm a little less confident in their offense. I mean, it's Carson Wentz versus Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's, aging. I mean, he is the Iceman, but not a lot of ice left in those veins, in my opinion. I think he's more of a game manager, if anything, right now. And even Wentz has flashes of, good deep ball stuff. So it's gonna be interesting watching this Colts team. But I still think the Titans, especially with Derrick Henry, who none of us have mentioned thus far. Derrick Henry is still arguably the best running back in the NFL besides Jonathan Taylor. And even then, I might still take Derrick Henry's pure dominance over Jonathan Taylor's. I think Ryan Tannehill, he's a game manager, but he's got, decent enough receivers. I mean, the defense isn't anything to write home about, but they do have some decent pieces, especially, at safety and corner. I'm not, I don't think they're like an elite defense, but they're definitely a middle of the pack defense. I'm not going to, write them off completely. I think the Titans still take this division, but I feel like this is going to be a division that no one wants to win. Much like the NFC East 2 years ago, this might be a division where no one really wants to win it, where, you're going to have the Titans and Colts maybe 2 games ahead of the Texans and Jaguars for much of the season. And I feel like this division is going to be decided in like week 16, week 17. So one playoff team is going to be the Titans, but I can't see the Colts. I'm thinking Titans still. They're the division champion and no Super Bowl contenders.
All right, so let's get to the draft. This is where it gets exciting, and you really have to know your fantasy players because, there are players like Brandon Cooks that are very consistent on terrible teams. So just to remind everyone, we pick one quarterback, one running back, one receiver, and one flex, within this division only. So I've shuffled up the order. We're going to go Jack first, then me, then Zach. All right?
You just don't like me. All right.
So no, you'll get to pick first next week. Don't worry. So trust me, do you want this first pick or do you want to wait till next week?
No. Yeah, good point.
So we're going to start with you, Jack. Everyone in the AFC South is at your disposal. There are some good players in here. Which one do you want?
Well, I'm actually so excited that I got the first pick here because I can pick my favorite player in the NFL that is not a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's the RB1 on my dynasty team. He went to my school. I'm picking Jonathan Taylor, and I love the man, and he's going to carry my team.
Well, he carried many a teams last year until it got late in the season. So obviously pretty standard pick. I'm kind of with you, Zach. I can't believe we haven't talked more about Derrick Henry. This guy is fantasy stud land, has been for many years. And I'm gonna keep that rolling and take Derrick Henry. I think he does well this year. I think Tannehill does terribly, and Henry has to carry the team again. So give me Derrick Henry. Now you get 2 picks on the turn.
Oh, I'm being left with like nothing already. There's really not much going on anymore here.
There's some great players. I mean, you could lock up a quarterback now.
There are some great players. I could lock up a decent quarterback at best. I could probably wait on that. But with my first pick, I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks, actually. I think he's due for a really good season. I mean, like I said earlier, he's got that year-long connection with Davis Mills. I think he's due for a pretty decent season this year. And then I'm actually going to go with Travis Etienne with my second pick. I mean, yeah, Travis Etienne. I need a running back at some point. Why not get probably the best left on the board, even if he hasn't played it down in the NFL? I mean, I do like what the Jaguars are building. I think he's got potential, especially with Trevor Lawrence, could be used both in the backfield and out of the backfield. So I think those are two pretty good picks, if not risky.
Every pick in this group is risky,
That's
so it's
true.
okay.
Except for your picks. Both of you got good picks, good running backs that I can't have.
Welcome to my world last week when I picked third.
Me.
I picked third last week. Let's remember that. Okay, so I like what you did. I was a little surprised you went Cooks first, but I love the ATN pick. I would have picked ATN had he come back to me. But I'm going to go with the best receiver in this entire division, and I'm going to go Michael Pittman Jr. He doesn't have the best quarterback throwing to him, but what he does have is a quarterback throwing to him. So it's already an upgrade over last year. So, and yes, I gave a slight positive comment to a former Falcon. But yeah, give me Michael Pittman Jr. and we're going to roll with that. Going on to Jack with 2 picks on the turn.
Dang. I really, really, really wanted Pittman. Shoot.
No dice.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go with a guy that is new to this division this year, and I think he's going to have a good breakout season for them. I'm gonna take Robert Woods. I'm gonna take Robert Woods.
Right.
Very solid, very consistent as long as he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, I'm gonna. Oh my God. This is disgusting.
It gets thin real quick.
Yeah.
It's been thin since Zach's first pick.
You know what? I'm gonna swing for the fences here. I'm gonna take Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna swing for the upside at quarterback. And I mean, I'm not a fan of any of the quarterbacks in this division. So I'm gonna go for the upside. I'm gonna take Trevor Lawrence.
Nice. That is a good pick. I think you went quarterback way too early. In a 4-round draft, you went in the 3rd round. But I'm going to bet on a quarterback with my next pick. And my bet is that Davis Mills has a better year than you think he is going to have. And I'm going to take John Mechie because of it. So he's going to be throwing.
I like that.
He's going to be throwing to Brandon Cooks, of course. But Mechie, he can really stretch the field. And I really love the fact that they will be down by 21 in every single game. So give me Mechie as my flex, and I'm going to pair him with Pittman and Henry. So on to you, Zach.
All right. I got 2 picks back-to-back to finish it off.
And one of them has to be a quarterback. You
can't
skip it.
Very rough. But you guys have left me some decent quarterbacks to play around with. My first pick, though, I'm going to take Marlon Mack. He's the starting running back of the Texans now instead of being Jonathan Taylor's backup. I'm going Marlon Mack as my flex. I think, again, he's starting for the Texans. Why not? He's a starting running back in this division. I already have 2 starting running backs in this division. Why not? I don't know. And then for my quarterback, it's pretty much Tannehill or Matt Ryan. I mean, it's not really a huge upside for either. But you know what? I'll go with Matt Ryan because of the Michael Pittman Jr. connection, and also Jonathan Taylor can probably be thrown to a few times. Just better overall weapons. I'll go with Matt Ryan.
That is such an interesting pick. I thought you were going to force Matt Ryan on me as a Saints fan by picking Tannehill.
Oh, I should have. Dang it.
I think I might have picked Davis Mills just to not have to do that. But so thank you for what you did. I'm going to take Tannehill. I don't think he has anybody to throw to. But they're going to have to throw the ball at some point. I have to take a quarterback. I'd love to take Mills for the same reason that I took Mechie, which is they're going to have to air it out. He's going to get it. And he had games last year where he had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So don't look past him if you have to just draft out of the AFC South. If you get to draft from all the teams in your fantasy football league, stay away from Davis Mills. But yeah, I'm going to go Tannehill.
Not draft.
On to you, Jack.
God. All right, so I've got my last pick here. It's my flex position. The options left are pretty gross. I'm not gonna lie. I think it comes down James Robinson is an option that's there.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be the starter this year, so that's a little worrying. I'm going to go for some upside here. I'm going to go for some upside he's playing a role that I know has been successful in the past, and he may fall flat in his face, but in this division, most people fall flat in their face. I'm going to go Treylon Burks and see if he reaches that ceiling.
Yep, exactly. That's what I thought was a good option. And look, let's be real. None of us picked a tight end, even with the likes of Austin Hooper, Mo Alley Cox, and Evan Ingram just sitting there waiting to be drafted. But so let's review. So we have Jack's team with Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Taylor, Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, okay? Going against my team of Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Michael Pittman Jr., and John Mechie. And then Zach's team of Matt Ryan, Travis Etienne, Brandon Cooks, Marlon Mack. I think it's pretty much a dumpster fire. But it would be great to see. We really should track some of these things all year long to see who wins these drafts.
Dumpster fire, but it's our dumpster fire.
Exactly.
At least I have Jonathan Taylor.
That's true.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah. At least you guys have good running backs. I don't have anything. Good.
Well, if ATN goes out early like he did last year, you're going to be in real trouble.
Proven running backs. I don't have any proven running backs.
That's right. But look, hey, it proved to be a lot of fun. I think next week we'll be moving on to the NFC East. So stay tuned for that. A lot of Cowboys hatred. I'm sure we can all agree on one thing, which is that we don't like the Cowboys. So
we hate Dallas. Woo!
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining us and listening in. Please join us on Sunday, the 24th for Sadakathon. It's going to be a great time. You can check that out on our Twitch, twitch.tv/LostTribeTV. Other than that, we will see you next week. Thank you very much.